Welcome to the explanation section for how to read minds 2. This box, in terms of its design, is my absolute favourite box that we've produced over at Illusionist, and this is the successor to How to Read Minds 1. If you've got How to Read Minds 1, you'll know how much information is shared inside these boxes. This is obviously the second one in the series, and in between there somewhere we had How to Control Minds. If you don't have those boxes, I highly recommend going to pick them up. But if you've got this box, you'll know that there's no crossover or very little crossover between the first box and this one, and you don't need the stuff in the first box to perform the stuff inside this box. Now in this section we're going to be taking a deep dive inside this box to look at each of the props under a microscope, and I'll teach you the subtleties, nuances, scripts and little wrinkles that I've learned over years of performing this stuff so that you can get out there in the real world and start performing miracles. So without further ado, let's jump into the explanations. So the first gimmick I want to talk about in the box is the rise gimmick. Now I'm going to mention this a lot of times. This is just a prototype. This is the one that I used in the performances. This will be different in your box. It might be a different color, a different shape, but it'll still do the same thing. So fundamentally, I can explain it the way that I'd explain it. As I said, Stacey's sitting in. She's the eyes of the audience, which means that if she has any questions, she's going to jump in from time to time and ask me. So what is the rise gimmick? The rise gimmick in a nutshell is a thumper that's easily concealed in the bottom of a deck of cards that we've specifically customed for you to put inside. So let me explain what a thumper is. A thumper is a remote device where you press a button and it vibrates. Now that might sound very rudimentary and foundational, but it allows you to do a multitude of different things, and we're going to be jumping into those things. So you'll get a remote that's got a button on the top of it, and to activate the actual gimmick itself, all you're going to do is look along the side of it, along the length, and you're going to turn it on. That's on now. We've purposefully turned up the noise on this so that you might be able to hear it on camera. I'm not saying you will. We've turned it up as high as it goes so that you can hear when I'm pressing this. But now as soon as I press the button, if you hold on to that for a second, Stacey, you could feel that, right?
Yeah.
This button would never be held up like this so you can hear it click. It'd be held down here and it'd be just secretly pressed like that as you're talking. Now you can feel that,
Yeah.
right? And what that allows you to do is it allows you to cue somebody. It allows you to use this for a two-person telepathy act. It's essentially vibrating inside the person's hands. Like I said, we've specifically built a card case that you can fit this device into. I'm going to show you just how the remote works first, how you'd use this for cueing, then we'll look at putting this inside the box and how it fits inside the box. So we'll ignore this for a second. So Stacey, let's say that I wanted to cue you the number 5. What I do, and I've not got the gimmick, but you'd have the gimmick in your pocket or in the box, you'd have hold of it. I'd simply count 1, 2, and I'm leaving some breathing room in between. What you don't want to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then hope that you're hitting it on the right time. So you'd go, I'm going to send you a number. Right? I'm going to say it to you without saying a word. Nobody else here is going to be able to hear what that number is, but you will. And all you've got to do is just trust your feelings, right? And you'll know, it's going to be really strange, but you'll know what this is. So as I go through them, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Now, if you had the gimmick at that point, it's very clear to you that this is this, right? Yeah. That's how the remote works. You're pressing it on whatever you want to cue. But there was something that you might have missed there that were a little bit more clever when you analyze it underneath a microscope. And it's this. This line is going to be your get out of jail free card. Now you've got to remember that if you go back to my very first online live lecture, I didn't use a thumper, but the language that I used in that is the same language that I'd use today. And the reason I'd use that today, and this is more than 10 years later, is because that language is the only language that works with this and when you're cueing somebody. And I know because I've experimented for over 15 years using this language, and I've failed a lot of times, and I've failed so that you don't have to. It's this. In a moment, Stacey, I'm going to be telling you a number, but I'm not going to be saying it out loud. I'm going to be transmitting it to you, right? And you're going to be the only person that knows what it is. Nobody else in this room is going to know what that number is. And all you've got to do is trust your feelings. If you don't trust your feelings, this won't work. It's going to be very apparent to you exactly what that number is, but like I say, nobody else will know. Now that's a dual reality, right? So to jump in what a dual reality is and to explain that term, and again, I'm assuming that the people watching this have a foundational level in mentalism. You might be an intermediate or a professional, but this is a good thing to know. Dual reality is where in that moment, you know full well that you're feeling that vibration. So you're going, okay, he just wants me to follow my feelings. Whereas to everybody else, this is the language that they hear. I'm going to be transmitting to you a number and they see this. I'm not going to be saying a word out loud. You'll just know what the number is, but nobody else here will. So what they're seeing is, oh, he's psychically transmitting this number, right? Now, if you're going to do this at a distance and it's going to be in the deck of cards, if you want to double down and you want to make sure somebody knows, that language will work perfectly. You can add one line. You're going to hold on to these, and in a moment, this feeling is just going to be so apparent to you, you'll know what to do. I mean, some people say that this feels like a cold chill. Some people say it feels like an electric shock. Other people say it feels like psychic vibrations. But all you've got to do is just follow whatever that feeling is. And now when you feel the vibration, you go, oh, I'm following the vibration, right? So if you want to double down, you can also add that language onto the top. So far, in terms of me transmitting, it should be apparent, but is there any questions you've got about me transmitting it or pressing the button, or do you get that?
I get it.
Okay, perfect. And also when to press the button. That's, because the first few times you do this, there's a bigger point here to make, and I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent because I want to keep this concise. You are going to panic when you're doing this because you're going to think, oh, what happens if I get caught? Or maybe someone's going to say something. Trust me, it's just like a double lift. Once you've done it a couple times, you're going to be great at it. But just take your time. There's no rush. Your instructions and your narrative have to be clear. And the clearer your narrative is, the better this will work. So that's what the remote does. It cues them at a specific point. This is the device that's actually vibrating. Now I guess what we do is we jump into exactly where this device fits and how we could fit it into other things as well. So we'll look at that now.
Perfect. And rolling.
So now you'll notice on the table in front of me there is a packet of ghost cohorts, and on the bottom of this it says the word GAF. Now that's important because this is the Mirage deck, also affectionately known as the Quran 2.0 deck. The original Quran deck had a multitude of different cards run cyclically. All that doesn't matter. This is a lot simpler. We will get into that in a second. We have a duplicate box. Now this is a bit special because these have been carefully crafted and created by a builder. I think it was Davy Rocket that did the original ones. And these are exactly 7 millimeters taller when you fold these flaps down than a regular deck. Now, the reason that that's important is because what you've got is a false bottom on the deck. And when we cut to close-ups of this, you'll see this. It allows you to take your gimmick, turn it on. Now, on the side of the gimmick, I wouldn't recommend messing with this, but I'm going to mention it. If you mess with it and it breaks, this is down to you. You have to be really finite gentle with this. There's a little switch, a little thing that you could turn with a screwdriver on the side, and what that does, it turns up or down the ferocity of the vibration. Now you might have to, if you need to play with this, but I'd recommend not. It's set at a good strength, and if you mess with it, you do risk breaking it. Anytime you mess with anything electrical, that's the case. But anyway, what happens is this gets turned on. Now make sure that the screwdriver side is facing outwards when you drop it in the box, and we will punch into a close-up of this, but what it does is it sits into the box like that, perfectly flush, and if you put it in the right way, you should be able to see the thing with the screwdriver on it. I'm not going to tape this. There is a strip of double-sided tape, which you can see on the bottom of the box. That would be peeled. This would be folded. Now, here's a recommendation. Do not stick it straight down. If you stick this straight down, you're going to rip the box, peeling it back off. Take your jeans and stick that. Once you've peeled this, stick it on your jeans a couple of times. So you stick it on your clothing a few times, and what it'll do is it'll kill the strength of the double-sided tape, so it sticks down just the perfect amount, and you'll be able to open and re-stick this. Obviously, after however many performances, you're going to have to get some more double-sided stick tape and stick this down, right? So that gets stuck down like this, and it sits inside the box. So what that means is that when you look at this from the outside, it looks like a regular deck of cards. It's imperceivable, the size difference, because it's small. It's 7 millimeters. You're not going to notice the size difference in this, right? So this would then get turned on like this. I don't know if you can hear that. It is working. This would get placed inside the box like this. This would be stuck down. I'm not going to stick it down. You should be able to hear it a lot louder now because we've turned this right up. I'm putting it next to the microphone. You can hear it. These cards come in the box, the Mirage deck. You open them out, and this is how you check they're in the right order. You're going to have a regular card on the face and then a 2 of hearts. And then a regular card and a 2 of hearts, a regular card and a 2 of hearts. And that's going to continue all the way through the deck. So you've got 2 of hearts, regular card, 2 of hearts, regular card. Just spread through these and quickly check that every single one of them is how it should be. These are going to go inside the box. So these would go inside this box. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm not going to place it inside the box with the gimmick. I'm going to place them back into the regular box. Right? You're not going to do that. You're going to put it in the bigger box with the thumper in the bottom. Make sense? That then goes into there, off to the side, and you're ready to perform your first routine. That's it. That's how it's placed inside the box. We will jump into a section after the performance, or after talking about the performance, the explanation of other places that you can put this and other routines that you can do with this. So let's jump into looking at the first performance. And in fact, here's a bit of a strange one. I think that I actually performed this on you at a pool table, a pool house in Vegas. And this is how it was done, but you still to this day didn't know how that was done, and this is it. So I'm going to shatter the illusion. So let's jump into the performance, and then let's take a look at the explanation.
So we're out on Fremont Street. My crew literally grabbed you and brought you over to me.
100%.
Never met you before.
No.
Everybody says this sort of stuff's set up. When they watch it, they go, oh, they're paid actors. No.
We're from Tennessee.
So we've never met. We've never even met before. No. I'll tell you what, hold on to this deck for me. What's your name?
Ken.
Ken. My name's Pete. Right, a very British name. Yeah. We're going to play a game, Ken. In a moment, you're going to build up a playing card piece by piece. Okay, you're going to do this based on your feelings. Now, some people describe this as an electrical sensation. Some people say it's a psychic vibration. Other people don't feel anything, right? I'm going to send to you a playing card. I'm going to transmit it piece by piece. Okay. And all you've got to do is build it up until you see the entire card. So look right at me. So this could be a red card or black. It could be a club, a heart, a spade, or a diamond, a picture card or a number. And obviously pictures are like ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right up to 10. And the pictures are jack, queen, king. In your head right now, you should have a playing card. You didn't know you'd be thinking of that playing card before you walked up here, right?
That's correct.
Inside this deck, there are 52 cards. And the card you're thinking of is at a particular number inside this deck. If you could tell me the exact number, imagine how great this would be at a casino. The croupier pulls the cards out of the shoe, and you just knew when that card was going to come out. It's the card that's going to win you the jackpot. It's going to beat everybody else at the table. We're going to deal that number down. Before we begin, what card are you thinking of? Just say it.
2 of hearts.
2 of hearts. If you could tell me the number the 2 of hearts were at, we're going to deal that number down. Would you be impressed?
I'd freak out.
Can I borrow your hand? Ken, what number is the 2 of hearts at?
Say again?
What number is the 2 of hearts at?
2.
From 1 to 52. What number in the deck from 1 to 52? Just tell me.
7.
7. I'm going to be as fair as possible. Look, hold them, Ken. Make sure these don't fall. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold on to this for me. That's 7. That's 7.
Yeah, that's
if you'd have gone for this one, it'd have been this. If you'd have gone for this one, it'd have been this. You were thinking of the 2 of hearts, Ken, right? If this card's the 2 of hearts, feel free to go nuts. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to step back. Slowly turn it round and show everybody.
My friend.
No.
You do it.
No.
Oh,
Get out of here, man. Hey. Don't even touch that card. It's that bad. Don't even touch it.
That is awesome.
Wow.
It's cool, isn't it?
I have the matching hands.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Wow.
Ken, thank you for
You're
playing.
awesome, man. You're awesome.
So this routine is a version of the Burglass effect. It's one of my absolute favourite effects. I'm going to share with you a few secrets afterwards. I'll run through the standard foundational explanation, then we'll jump into one later. This was the opening to my very first live lecture, and I think it was the very first effect that I shared with the Magic World, and this is a version of it on steroids because of this little device. So you've got your Mirage deck. Your Mirage deck is loaded inside the bigger box, like this. Test it's working. Don't just hand the box out, right? The amount of times that I've relied on tech and electronics in the past and they've not been tested properly, it falls to pieces. It's simple to test. You've got them in your pocket. Just press the remote. If you feel the vibration, you know it's working, right? So we start out. This is never on display. If you're a male, you'll find that wearing male jeans, they have a pocket that's affectionately known as the condom pocket. That little pocket that's on the side, that fits inside there. It fits perfectly inside there. It slides in, and all you have to do is press your finger on the outside of your jeans then, right? You want it in your pocket. You don't want this out in your hand. I like to perform this sat down. Because of that, when I put this in my pocket, it sits like that, and all I'm doing is I'm sat with and it also, if this does have a slight click to it, inside the pocket, you're not going to hear that as you're talking. It's just real gentle, right? So that's that. We've got the deck. This is how the performance would run. So we'll pretend that's in there. And what I'll do is, instead of pressing the button on the vibrator, what I'll do is I'll touch you on the shoulder the moment it vibrate, right? Just so that it'd be the exact same and you guys get to see what it looked like, but you have a visual reference to be able to refer to understand when I'm pressing the button. So let's say we're performing to a non-magician. I know you are a magician, but I'm going to treat this situation like you're somebody that's not. So I know that at some point in your life, somebody's probably showed you a card trick. But there's a card trick that even fooled magicians. It's known as the Burglass effect. So there's a guy called David Burglass, and he created such a fair experiment under test conditions that every single magician in the world has been fooled by his version of that effect. And what's interesting is when you get into magic, it's one of the things that you want to learn the most. I call it the Rubik's Cube of magic, right? I think I've cracked how David did it, and I want to film it because I want to send this video to him, right? So you start with a deck of cards. Now this could be a borrowed deck of cards, but for this experiment, you don't carry cards around with you. It makes sense that I have. I want you to take hold of them for a second. And you're going to hold on to them like this. Now in a moment, I'm going to transmit to you a playing card. I'm going to tell you a playing card without saying a word. Now nobody else in this room is going to know what that card is except you. And you've got to follow your feelings or this definitely won't work, right? So let's just attempt to test to see if you can pick up on what I'm transmitting. So for now, close your eyes. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Slowly open your eyes. What was the number that you feel I was trying to transmit to you?
4.
Okay, that's good enough for me. That's close enough for me. Yeah, I think you'll be perfect for this, right? So we're going to do this with a card. So just imagine a ribbon spread deck of cards, a deck of cards spread in the air, and you can all do this as well. Obviously in the deck there are red cards or there are black cards. There are clubs, hearts, spades or diamonds. There are picture cards or number cards. In your head start to go through the numbers like ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, and the pictures would be jack, queen and king. So take your time, use your feelings to build that card up and paint it. Think to yourself, did I get a feeling on red or black? Did I get one on clubs, hearts, spades or diamonds? Picture cards or numbers. And obviously, you know, the pictures are jack, queen and king, the numbers are ace through to 10. So in your head now you have a card, right?
Yeah.
Now, I am going to break here for a second. Please play that little bit back because it's important. I'm not using the thumper. The moment I'm doing this, I'm cueing the 2 of hearts there by touching. Right? I'm not using this. You'd be using the remote every time you see me do this. So now we'll jump back into performance. So you have a playing card inside your head that I obviously don't know, right? But I told you that card, right? But nobody else here knows what it is. Because they don't know what it is, they also don't know where it is. If you could point to anybody in this room and they could give you a number to deal down to when we arrived at that card and it were there, would that blow your mind?
Absolutely.
Right, so you point to absolutely anybody in this room. It doesn't matter who it is.
Okay.
Okay, so Dwayne, who incidentally is the only person in the room, but this could be anybody. Dwayne, give me any number of cards to deal down to arrive at whatever card it is Stacey's thinking of. So first look at Stacey. Imagine you knew the card. You just knew it.
18.
So we're going to deal down 18 cards exactly. Right?
Okay.
Slowly open the lid of the cards. Now we're going to deal these face down one at a time. So wait a second. Face down means that we're not turning them over because I don't want to know if we're wrong or right till we get to the end. Okay. So start dealing one at a time. So that's 1, 2, and you all count along as well. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop there a second. Are you happy with 18 or do you want to change your mind at the last second?
No, I'm happy.
Okay. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Stop. This is the 18th card. I want you to take this 18th card and I just want you to put it off to the side for a second for me. What's the card that you built up inside your mind?
2 of hearts.
The 2 of hearts. Now look, if Dwayne had said 17, this would have been different. If Dwayne had said 19, this would have been different, right? He didn't. He said 18. Take the 18th card and have a look at it. And then show everybody, and it's obviously the 2 of hearts, right? And that's due to the makeup of the deck, which I explained earlier on. There's a couple of things I want to break down there because there's a couple of interesting things that happen, and it's reset now, ready to go again. There's a couple of interesting things that happen there in that performance. I know we sort of broke it and we broke the 4th wall, but when you watch it a couple of times and you watch the performances where I'm using this, you'll understand 100% how that process here is totally invisible and how this person's just as impressed as everybody else, right, but everybody else gets a different effect, right? So we'll jump into the explanation of this now and the breakdown of the language. It should be apparent how it works based on the fact you know the deck, you know the remote, you know when I'm pressing this, but I want to go through the language and the subtlety and nuance of the scripts because they're important, right? So let's jump into that now. So this is really easy. Obviously you've got your Mirage deck, which we talked about, which is 1 card, 2 of hearts, 1 card, 2 of hearts, 1 card, 2 of hearts. Run it all the way through the deck. In this example, you open the box and the cards came out face down. It doesn't matter if they come out face up because the face card's always a random face card, right? So that means that you get this beautiful display of this. And I'm not even nervous about going like this. Just little things like that. I wouldn't do it. I think it's overkill, but I'm not nervous about doing that. And there's just little flashes where I'm doing this that just, and I say in a moment, you're going to be thinking of one of these, right? And when you're looking at these from the edge, you genuinely can't see that they're the same. They're moving so quick, it's imperceivable. If you feel guilty, feel free to do stuff like that. I think it's overkill. I wouldn't do it. I just like them to take them out and start dealing. It's cleaner, right? So the first bit is this. I know this is the 2 of hearts. Because I know it's the 2 of hearts, I've got to make sure that you're going to go for the 2 of hearts. Something really beautiful happened that everybody's going to watch. And when you're watching me perform that, you're going to go, wait a minute, he held up 3 fingers, but he tapped Stacey's shoulder on the number 4. Why did he do that? Because it seems like it makes sense for me to tap you on the number 3, but it doesn't, and I'll explain why. So when you had your eyes closed, what I did is I tapped you on the number 4. I'd have pressed the vibrator on the number 4. But I say, if you just close your eyes for me, and I hold up 3 fingers, right? And I go, right, okay, so this could be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. And I say, what number did you get a feeling on? And you say 4. And I go, well, that's close enough for me. What that does is it makes the audience assume that there's no way I could be cueing you numbers because I got it wrong. You were just close, right? So that kills any notion. Even when magicians watch this, like if you're performing this at conventions, that's how I throw magicians off. Most people will be, I know when you say 4, I'm thumping you on 4, so I know you're following me. But everybody else there, because I'm holding 3 fingers up, goes, wait a minute, she were out by 1, so he's definitely not cueing her. So then that kills that method to magicians, right? But I know you're doing what I want you to do. So that's a tiny little subtlety. In real performance, you'll see, I honestly don't even do a test like this, right? If you're uncomfortable doing the one difference nuance, don't do it. You could just thump them on the right number and take a hit for that if you wanted. I don't, right? I don't even test for it. I just give them the cards in performance and I just do it. And it works because I'm used to doing this, right? But that's the testing phase. That lets me know that Stacey's following the vibrations or the feelings. In this case, it'd be the feelings, but it's the vibrations normally. And it also lets me throw the audience off to the fact that there is me sending you it, right? It's just a tiny nuance, but it's important. So now I do this with the cards. And if you play this back, all I do is ask them to imagine a spread deck of cards. Now, when you watch the performances of this, I stand up and walk away. In this environment, it's not a good environment to do that, but there's a reason. I go, this could be red, and you'd feel a vibration, or it could be black. It could be a club, a heart, a spade or a diamond. That's obviously when I'm pressing this button. A picture card or a number. And I say, obviously pictures are like Jack, Queen, King. And in your head, just count up through the numbers like Ace, 2, and I'm giving myself that space, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. Now I'd stand up and I'd walk away. And this is a beautiful little subtlety this is how, again, it's just a fooling moment. The word feelings is past and present tense relevant, right? It's the only word I've found in the English language that's like this. The word feelings, to the person that's experienced those feelings, is past tense. To everybody else, when I say feelings, they think we mean present tense. So when I walk away and I say, just think to yourself, and I say the word did I get a feeling on red or black? So you go, oh, I got one on red, and I'm walking away now, and then I change the word did to the word do. Do I get one on a club? Do I get one on a heart, spade, or a diamond? A picture card or a number? Go through the pictures like Jack, Queen, King, the numbers, ace through to 10. And just give me a yes when you've got a card inside your head. So now you go, yes. Now everybody assumes that whilst I'm here, that's when you're making the card up. Right? In this, it doesn't really matter because you can do it at a distance. The reason that I built that in is because I used to press on the foot instead of using this until I had this built years ago, and then I changed it to this. So obviously I created that because 10 years ago I was pressing on somebody's foot. You don't really need to do that now because you can be at a distance when you're doing this. And that's why I say this is a version that's on steroids. If you look back over my performance as well, I talked about David Berglass. Now the reason I talk about David Berglass is because I'm quite aware that if I ever put a performance video up, whilst lay people watch it, I know magicians watch it, and it gives them a nice little nod towards the effects. And sometimes there were a routine called Big Bang. I think it was called Big Bang, and it like you put it inside an exploding light bulb. I don't know if it was called Big Bang, but basically people would say, oh, just be careful because sometimes there's a big bang. Do you know what I mean? Or if they're doing colour match, what they might do is they might go and the aim is to get the colours to match. Do you know what I mean? They'll say, oh, when they're doing Out of This World, they'll say, oh, you know, some people have said this is Out of This World. You know, like just a little nod towards the magic world. So sometimes I like to sprinkle that into my regular performances because I know they watch it and I know it's just a bit of fun. Like we're literally exposing what it is without exposing it. And I think there's something naughty about that, but that's another thing. Anyway, so now I know that I've gone through and you've got the 2 of hearts inside your head. At this point, technically, Stacey is what's known or referred to as an instant stooge. Now, there are varying degrees of names for stooges, and that's something that we will talk about later on. But right now, Stacey is basically a regular person that's become a shill or a stooge in this act without any preemptation. But I don't want that to happen because I don't want to use stooges in my act. I'm not a fan of stooges. So I've got to then, in 30 seconds, take Stacey from being an instant stooge into being as fooled as everybody else. And how do I do that? Stacey, if you could point to any one of your friends and they could tell us how many cards to deal down to arrive at whatever card it is you're thinking of without you telling them the card, would you be impressed? So now you go, yes, of course, that's card at number. So what Stacey's experiences is a card at number. What everybody else experiences is any card at any number because they think Stacey's thought of the card, right? But because of my language earlier on where I said, I'm going to be telling you this, I'm going to openly transmit this to you, but nobody else is going to know, Stacey now never feels the need to talk about it because she thinks that I'm telling everybody that I'm transmitting that card, right? And also you're going to do other things. If this is your one and done, maybe this is not your one and done routine, but if it is one and done, which, you know, it could be, you need to sort of be a bit more explicit about the fact that you're transmitting this so that it feels like you're having an open discussion about it. And the reason that you're not saying the card is because you want everybody to figure something out later on. So it's important to remember that when I'm telling you these nuances of the script, it's things that I've developed over years and you don't need to stick to that. It's good to learn it. It's good to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying, because that's something that you're going to be working towards. I mean, in this, you could literally just hand it to somebody, press the button and ask somebody for a number to deal down to and it'd be there. Simple as 3 steps. But when you get deeper into mentalism, you realize that a lot of it relies on language and nuance of language and understanding that certain terms and things that you're saying are psychologically shifting the way that people think and behave. And ultimately, that language is what fools people. Right? So the more you dress it, the better you dress it, the more you take them away from the method, the better it is, right? But it's not ultimately that important. Now, there is one nuance in scripting that I really want you to pay attention to, and it's this. And I've never seen anybody think about this, but it's interesting. People have used Mirage type decks for years, Svengali decks for years for any card at any number, right? But there's always this horrible moment where they go, right, okay, give me a number and we'll deal down that number of cards. And then this routine relies on an even or an odd number being named. If they're going to name an odd number, then it's going to be the card that's in your hand. If it's an even number, it's going to be the card that's on the table, right? So I came up with one sentence that's a really interesting sentence that's a dual reality. And it's this. If you could point to anybody here and they gave us a number to deal down to arrive at the card you're thinking of, would that be impressive? Right? It's the word arrive there, the little sentence arrive is this, because we dealt down and we've arrived there. We've dealt down and okay, we've arrived at this card. It allows us the subtlety of pointing to the fact that we dealt down a number to arrive at this card. That makes sense. We dealt down a number to arrive at this card. It allows us that open space to be able to point to either packet, right? So just to understand what I mean, because these are spread out, regular card, the 2 of hearts, regular card, 2 of hearts, every second card, every even number named is going to be the force card, right? So let's say I said to Stacey, Stacey, you're going to give me a number and we're going to deal down that number to arrive at a card, right?
Okay.
So what number?
6.
Because that's even, I go, okay, so Stacey would be dealing face down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've arrived at this card. Now, had Stacey have named 7, right, so let's say that we reverse counted these, and Stacey had said 7, we'd go, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, you decided to deal that number of cards down to arrive at this random playing card. The word arrive allows us that subtlety, that nuance. Now, there's something else that's important to remember, and this is key, is this line. It's when we get to that card, to arrive at this card, just take that card and put it to your chest for now. Right? If they're holding this, they're going to put this to their chest. If they've dealt to this, it's take that card and just move it off to the side. There's a reason for that, is because we're going to do what they call a Sven display, right? And a Sven display means that we're going to show the 2 cards either side of the card. If you'd have said 6, we'd have been at this card. If you'd have said 8, we'd have been at this card. Which makes it look like every card would have been different. If you'd have named any other number, this would have been different. Coupled with that, we're seeing that the face card is different as it comes out of the box. Now you're in this interesting situation where they turn this round, it's going to be this. And then you drop it back down, put these back together, and you're instantly reset. So that's a simple trick. It's a simple way to use this, right? A very simple way to use it. Do you have any questions on any of that? I think it's quite easy.
No, that's great. Yeah.
But it allows you to achieve the impossible. It allows you to achieve what's known as the Burglass effect. If you're new to mentalism, this is a very clean version of the Burglass effect. I mean, imagine taking this, giving the deck to somebody, somebody thinks of a card, somebody names a number, and then bang, there it is. This is what it allows you to do, right? This could be used for so much more. And we are going to jump into a couple of other ways that you can use this. But before we do that, just remember, this is not going in this packet. It's going in this. This is going in the bottom of this. And you're going to be pressing the button inside your pocket so it doesn't make a noise. Hopefully that's all understandable. If you give me the green light, then we'll jump into different uses for this in different places that you could store this. Are you happy?
Yes, carry on.
That's it. So let's jump into that. So I'm about to share with you a performance of something I've done for years. It's a really simple performance and I'm going to just run through it really quickly because it's just one extra idea that I want to sprinkle into the set. I will say that usually this would be in the bottom of the box of cards. This would follow on from the last routine, so the person's already accustomed to feeling the vibrations. Stacey's got a small pocket on the side of her dress, so she's placed the deck into her pocket and we'll run from there. So Stacey, I want you to put your hands flat on the table for me. Now, a moment ago, you showed how in sync you were with your friends, right? Your thoughts and your friends are totally in sync to the point that you can make miraculous things happen, but obviously we've just met. So I need to create a connection with us where we're in time with each other, right? So I'm going to take this hand and I just want you to let it fall back to the table when I let go of it. When it hits the table, I just want you to close your eyes, right? So just as I lift it, as soon as it drops, let the weight of it relax. As it drops, you just close your eyes. That's it. Now, in a moment, you're not going to be letting your hand drop like that. If your hand ever comes up, I just want you to let it float up nice and slowly. And if it goes down, I just want you to let it float down nice and slowly, just like a feather descending towards the table. Now, in a moment, you're going to experience a series of different feelings. Whatever you feel, when you feel it, I want you to give me a nod. You don't say anything out loud, and you keep your eyes closed until I physically say to you, Stacey, open your eyes. So just when you feel something, you just give me a nod. When you feel this, lock your hand into the table. So lock your hand down solidly. And the next time you feel it, I want you just to lift your hand up the height of a wine bottle, but not until you feel it. So it just floats up there, around and around. And the next time you feel it, you just let it go down, back to the table, but not until you feel it. Perfect. You just let it float down a little bit more gracefully than that. We'll do this again. So just the exact same thing. So you let it just float around, and then when you feel it, you just let it descend back to the table at the same speed, but not until you feel it. You're doing absolutely perfect. Keeping your hand locked down, keep your eyes closed. Dwayne, can you just point at Stacey's hand? This time, Dwayne, I want you to imagine when you lift your hand, it's connected to Stacey's. Stacey, you're just doing the same thing. Take your time though, Dwayne, and whenever you want, I want you to make a nice overt gesture upwards like this, and let's see what happens. Doing perfect. Dwayne, take your time. Whenever you want, so take your time. Whenever you want, Dwayne, you just drop it back down. Perfect. Keeping your eyes closed, Stacey. In a moment, we're going to use those exact same feelings to see if you could do something interesting. Keep your eyes closed. You can't see what's in front of you right now, no?
Correct.
So just take your time. Do you think the thing that I've put down in front of you is something that's a hard object, or do you think it's soft?
Hard.
Okay. Do you think it's something that's relatively dull, or do you think it's shiny?
Shiny.
Now I'm going to name some rooms in the house, and I want you just to tell me, when I ask you, don't say anything until I physically ask what room it's in. So it could be the bedroom, it could be the kitchen, it could be the bathroom, it could be the sitting room, it could be the hallway. What room do you think you'd find this object in?
Kitchen.
Okay. Now do you think you'd find this in a drawer in a kitchen, or do you think you'd find it just on the sides?
Drawer.
Would you say that this is more a junk drawer or a cutlery drawer?
Cutlery.
Okay, so would this be a fork, a knife, a spoon, a ladle? What piece of cutlery would it be?
Knife.
A knife. So get rid of that. I think we are perfectly in tune with each other, and I'd like to take this a step further. So take a deep breath in and slowly let your eyes open. Now you obviously don't know what's just happened, and that's absolutely fine. And now I'd move into other mentalism routines, but you can see how I'm using this to perform these brilliant little things. And this, I mean, there's nothing in front of you, but there was a knife in front of you, and it's just a great way to let somebody pull an object out of their pocket, put the object down on the table, and now you can say what that object is, right? You could also do this and force two objects and then get them down to one, and they decide which one it is to get a little reaction from this person, but we'll get into that. So let's explain this, let's explain the object thing, and we'll run from there. So of course you know this used the rise gimmick, nice and simple, but it allows you to do incredible things. And if you're a two-person telepathy act, this will allow you, without having to verbally code somebody, to trigger them to know exactly what somebody's thinking of. So if you've got 10 people that's got an object and one of them hides an object behind their back, you can instantly press this and you'll be able to find it. You also know that anybody can put any object in front of you on the table, and by using a series of binary questions, you can reduce them right down like a branching anagram using this to get down to what the object is, right? So if you're a two-person telepathy act, this thing is an incredible must. If you're with a friend in a bar and you just want to show off and your friend's another magician, you can literally give them this device, they put it in their pocket, and you and your friend can do fake muscle reading demonstrations, right? Now, if you don't know what muscle reading is, I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of what it is. Let's say we did it with these 3 playing cards and we spread them out. You could do this with a full deck on a table, right? So this would be a full deck. But Stacey, close your eyes for a second. when you're over the top of the card that the spectator's thinking of, they'd be holding your hand, it wouldn't be me. All I want you to do is just pull your hand down. So let's say it was this one. The spectator would be doing this, so they'd go like this. Whenever you think it's there, you just pull down. So whichever one you get a feeling on, this one. So you think that this is the one that they're thinking of. Good. So you can open your eyes. If this is your friend and that you've forced one card. So let's say that one card's been forced. You don't know what that card is. All the cards are sprinkled face up on the table and mixed up, and like on the pool table in the performance with the pool ball, which we will jump into. You can literally have your friend have somebody hold on to their wrist and take them over the top of each card, and as soon as you see it, you just press this button and it gets dropped down. So you can do fake muscle reading demonstrations. You can put the device in your pocket, and if your friend's just at a bar, you say, look, I'm trying this out. I'm not very good at it at the minute, but I'm learning to get better at it, and I need to see the tells that they're giving me to be able to do this. But for now, I've come up with this device. It's like a training device, like a bark device with a dog, where a dog barks, you can press a button. It's like that. So wherever they hide the object in that vicinity of the room, just press the button for me so I can get used to doing this. And when I get closer, just keep pressing it. You can literally give it to a friend who's not a magician and then do muscle reading demonstrations where you find the object and everybody else reacts to it. Right? So this device can be used for so many things. The way that you saw me do it were at the pool table, which is the exact same as the... it's the exact same as the any card, any number we just did, except all I did is I just spread the cards out on the table, and when you hit the ball round the table, because there's more of the two of hearts, statistically, it were going to land on top of that or closest to it. And I just took a risk, literally in front of everybody. Had you take them, spread them face down, knock the ball round the table after one of you thought of a card, and then it ended up right next to it, and I'm like... And the beauty is that because these are marked as well, it allowed me to quickly look down and go, if you'd have gone for this one, look what would have happened. If it had been this one, in fact, if it had been that one over there or this one here. And now your brain filled in the blanks thinking, well, wait a minute, even if this was a gimmick deck, which you had no clue that it was. And the reason you had no clue that it was is because I told you to take them face up, look at them, shuffle them up into a random order. I'll take those back, go grab the cues. The moment you were grabbing the cues, I just switched my regular Ghost Cohorts deck for the Mirage deck. And now you were spreading them on the table after already seeing them, already mixing them. And now I'm turning some of these over as well. It was just a perfect illusion that you'd knocked it round the table and it had landed on that ball, right? But yeah, you can see what this does. It allows you to be able to instantly turn somebody into a spectator that's figuring out what it is. You can use this for this. All I'm doing is when I press the button, lock your hand down. When I press the button, lift your hand up. And I just watch Dwayne now when I'm pressing it. You can hear me pressing, you can feel it. So literally Stacey's here like this. She hears this. She lifts her hand up. I press it again. She pushes it down. This could be any action. So it could be a case of this. Just close your eyes for me, Stacey. Now in a moment, I'm going to ask you a specific series of questions. But whenever you feel this, so whenever you're feeling this, I just want you to not speak. I want you to imagine you'd completely lost your voice and you were unable to say whatever it is you were going to say next. So if I ask you, what's your name?
Stacey.
Okay, and where are you from, Stacey?
Las Vegas.
And how old are you? Where are you from again? Where are you from?
Las Vegas.
So by messing with the remote a couple of times there, you went to answer and then I press it and you stop yourself. So if I went, what's your name? You see, because you don't know what you're supposed to, so you get that natural, right, which is great because it looks like hypnosis, right? So you can open your eyes a second. So it allows for that. What I'd say to you is take this away, experiment with it, because when you realize what you can actually do with this, from muscle reading demonstrations to taking your partner out and turning your wife into the mind reader, to letting your wife or partner have the device and then cueing you as to what somebody's thinking of, any card at any number, two-person telepathy acts, hypnosis acts using this as the trigger. Literally, if you find somebody you can hypnotize, right? If you find somebody that you can actually hypnotize or give suggestions to, instead of saying to them, when you hear, you know the common one, when you heard the word sleep, you're going to go into a deep sleep. You don't need to do that now. You can set this up as the trigger. So you could say in a moment what's going to happen is inside your mind, you're going to feel it doing backflips. Whenever you feel this, you're not going to be able to say your name. No matter how hard you try to say your name, whenever you feel this, you're going to completely forget it. Now this is the trigger that's triggering the hypnosis. So if you're a hypnotist and you're watching this, imagine silently now putting that person in the audience. You find a way to bring that person out of the audience. The person comes out of the audience and you literally look at them and you just go, what's your name? And then so you'd answer.
Stacey.
And now we're talking, da, da, da. And then I'd say, you know, it's really interesting because for me, I find that sometimes when something's on the tip of your tongue that you think you should know, it almost becomes a little bit confusing about how easy it is to actually say that. What's your name? And then you've got this moment where the hypnosis is triggered by this. And you're not having to do that whole thing where you're going, look at me, and now it's gone. None of that, you're not having to do it. It's so covert now, right? So, and I can tell you that on television, like I work on shows all the time. I'm running like 6 productions right now. And this is the greatest tool when on set. The reason it's the greatest tool is because let's say that you want to pre-show somebody a playing card, right? You want to pre-show somebody the 2 of hearts. So what I do is I'd say to you, right, Stacey, I want you to pick a card. So you'd pick one, right? Let's say it's the 2 of hearts. I've forced you it. And I'd say, do you think you can remember that card?
Yeah.
Right? Now I want you to put that back in there for me. This is what's going to happen. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to name a series of cards. You're going to name random cards. So you've got the 2 of hearts, but whatever one you just picked, whatever you've got in your hand, we pretend you have it in your hand, you're not going to name that card. When you feel this, and now I'm openly showing them this, when you feel this, I'm going to ask you to name, whatever card I ask you to name next, I want you to name this one. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So for example, you pick this one. Let's say I say to you, name a card for me. I want you to name a random one.
Okay.
Then I'll say to you to name another card. You name a random one. And then when you feel this, I'll say name a card. I want you to name that one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? So I'd be sure about it. I'd take it away like this and I'd go. So now I'd say, look, we're going to name a series of random cards. Completely random, right? So if I asked you right now just to name a card, what would it be?
King of Hearts.
Now, when did you think about that card?
Just now.
It just came into your head. Did you know you'd be saying that?
No.
No, okay. I want you just to name another card for me.
3 of Spades.
Okay. Name another one.
10 of Diamonds.
Now, whatever you name next is what we're going to go with. So just name a card.
2 of Hearts.
And there we go, right? So now using this little device, at any point I can bring the pre-show to this moment. But when you've already said to me, I'm just making a card up now. I'm making this one up now. It's just coming off the top of my head. And I say, whatever card you name next is going to be the card we go with. And I press this button. Now I'm bringing in the card that were pre-showed. But how could that have been pre-showed now, right? So these clever little devices can trigger hypnosis. If you know that and you think about the way this could be used on TV, I could put a suggestion into somebody's head in the pre-show. My person that I'm pre-show, the client I'm working for, the talent goes on screen. They do a certain thing. Everything's normal. I press this button and now the person's under hypnosis. And now this person can not have to give them commands because this is the command. This is the trigger. This is the remote. See what I'm saying? You know, like there's interesting things you can do with this. Play with it. Have fun with it. Right? I'm going to close on one section and this is just one last thing and then we're done with the rise gimmick. We're going to move on to the next thing. And I promise you the next sets of explanations will be a lot more concise. It's just that this is the flagship product inside the box. This is the thing that you're going to get a lot of value out of. And I really wanted to go into depth on the explanation of this because you've got to understand that there's a million uses. You're only limited by your own creativity and imagination. To make this a borrowed deck of cards effect, which you can do, right? Remember, you don't have to use the cohorts. You don't have to use the ghost cohorts. We give you these because we wanted to give you every tool possible to go out and do this stuff. You can make up your own decks from bicycle cards or any other set of cards that you want. It doesn't have to be one card and then this card and then one card and then this card and one card and this card. It could just be a one-way force deck with a different face card. So what I do at conventions, and this is very naughty, but it's great. Let's say I've got a one-way force deck of bicycle cards. I know that bicycle cards are the most used playing cards on the planet. Because they're the most used playing cards on the planet, I carry a one-way force deck of red bikes and a one-way force deck of blue bikes, right? And I'll walk around a convention and I'll see somebody that's using a blue bike deck. And I say, oh, I know you're probably not planning to, but are you planning to come to the lecture that I'm doing later? Or come to the performance? Yeah. Could I make a prediction in your deck of cards for me? Right, so just pass me your deck. In fact, I don't want you to see the prediction, so just turn around for a second. As soon as they turn around, I literally take my one-way force deck and I put it in their box. Right, I put their deck of cards in my pocket. And now I turn them back around and I go, so this is your deck. I've put one card at a specific number. There's a couple of rules. Don't hand these cards to anybody at all. And I'm going to be asking you if anybody's touched these cards. Don't look at the cards. Don't move the order of them. Can you promise? I get them to pinky promise. Now put these cards in your pocket. Now later I'm going to be asking if there's any card performers in the room. Sit close to the front, not on the very front row, but somewhere close to the front. And what I want you to do is just raise your hand and then raise your other hand so that I know exactly where you are. So now we go out. I go out on stage. And I say what I'm about to show you is something I wouldn't usually do, but I think tonight I'm going to try it. I like to try the burglass effect, but before we begin, do we have any card performers in the room? I know where that person is anyway. They raise their hand, and I ask, as I'm walking down, I've got a few here, have you brought a deck of cards with you? They bring them out. I say a couple of things are important. That's your deck of cards. How are they going to answer that question? Yes. Have you handed that deck to anybody?
No.
So now that includes me, right? So now I say, keep your eyes on this deck as I bring it up like this. Now, one other thing to note, the deck in my pocket, the one that's their deck, I take the 2 of hearts out of it, right? Because, and I'll explain why later. I get that, take it out and I put it in another pocket. I leave it backstage. There's an envelope in my pocket and their deck of cards is behind it. So essentially I've created a little room in my pocket, a two-way force bag in my pocket where their deck of cards is here and the envelope's here. So now I've got their deck, it comes out, that sits there. Right. As this is your deck of cards, I don't want anybody thinking that you're part of this. I obviously know you're not, but we're going to use 2 random spectators. So I'm going to take this deck of cards and we're going to throw it out into the audience. Whoever catches it, you could choose to throw it again or you can stand up. So then now they come up. Right, now this person's the person that's got the deck of cards in their hands. They come up, I do this with a device, like literally could just give them the thumper if it's this. If you're loading it into the bottom, if it's not, I could touch their foot, which is how I normally do it. Then you pick somebody else. So now we've got a borrowed deck of cards, we've got a thought of card, and you point to somebody who gives us the number. We deal down. Here's the little beautiful bit. Are you ready? You've dealt to this card. Place it off there for me. I'll get rid of the rest of these. These go into my pocket on this side of the partition. For the first time, what's the card you're thinking of? 2 of hearts. And then I just cross my fingers and I say, show everybody it. And then I hear a gasp and I open my eyes and look and bang. Now I reach into my pocket, take out this man's deck of cards, spread them face up on the table, take this one, throw it back in. That's why I remove the 2 of hearts. Collect them back up, put them in the box. Thank you for lending me those. And I throw them back and everything's cleaned itself up. And that's how you do this as though it's a borrowed deck, right? And it's just a great little subtlety if you're at conventions or you're performing stage gigs to magicians or even sat at a table. It's a great way to do it. If you want to do this close up and you want to fool magicians, there's a really great way to do it. Give the deck of cohorts to one of your friends that's got the device in the bottom of it. Everybody, take your decks out of your pocket, throw them on the table, mix them up, and now we use an equivocate process to get down to the deck, or you just literally grab one of the decks off the table. We'll have another deck for this, we'll do this with this, and then, or you get them to pick the decks that you use in experiments and just wait till this one comes and then perform that trick at that point, right? It's suggestive that it's a borrowed deck of cards because it's in the mix of all the rest of them. In terms of battery life, every single one of these has a different amount of battery life. We'll get into how to charge this before we close the section on the Rise gimmick. I will say to you what I do is I'd put the device, I'd charge it, put it on charge, leave it on charge, and then I'd sit there with a timer on your iPhone or on your Android, whatever phone you're using, and I'd press the button repeatedly over and over again. It sounds like a boring process, but what's going to happen is it's going to give you the limitations of how long your device lasts. So that means that you could throw it out into the audience and you might not need to get to it for 15 minutes. You'll know what your time span is. If your time span's 8 minutes, then you know that it's 8 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, you know it's 30 minutes. And it gives you a cap to the specific amount of time that your device is going to last. And therefore, you don't come up on stage and it's not working. You're going to know it's working, right? I'd always run a test if I'm doing the borrowed deck of cards version. I'd take it, I'd have my remote in my pocket and I'd say, so we obviously have this borrowed deck, and I'd just press the button as I lift it up. So now I know it's vibrating in my hands, I know it's working. If it's not working, I can rely on the foot press, and that gives me my get out of jail free card. So let's finally talk about charging. We'll talk about how to charge the device, and then we'll look at some other stuff. So now let's talk about charging the device. Charging the device is incredibly simple. I don't really need to do an explanation on it, but I will. You take your cable, you plug your cable in. Your cable's going to sit inside here. This USB goes into a computer, it goes into a plug, a USB plug, and you just literally look at the light. There's a continual red light, and that light will go off once it's fully charged. And it's as simple as that. The remote is takes these batteries, and I think that this, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's a 335 battery. It's just a standard watch battery. The number will be on the back of the battery. So whatever the number is on the back of the battery, I recommend that you order some of these from Amazon. They're very cheap and they last a long time. So however long a watch lasts, this is going to last the same. These watch batteries, I've had watches that have lasted a year, 2 years, and they're in constant use because of the perpetual motion of the watch. So yeah, that's as simple as it is, really. I don't really need to give much more on that. I will say this device will also fit into somebody's pocket. It'll fit into somebody's wallet. You can put it inside your wallet. You can put it inside somebody's purse. Anywhere you can load this device will act the same way, as long as it's making contact with the person to be able to feel the vibration. That's it. So that's the end of the explanations for the Rise gimmick. And yeah, let's jump in to look at something else. So I want to share with you the 2-out envelope. Now this envelope is a little beauty. I first published this in Bigger Fish, the very first book that I ever released. The very first physical book that I ever released. I'd released an ebook or two before that, but this was the first limited book that I ever released. And the 2-out envelope inside here is an incredible device that allows you to switch in and switch out different pieces of information. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, what's that beneficial for? I will get into that in a moment. For now, what's going to happen is we're going to cut into a section on how to construct the envelope, and to do that I've got one of the best builders in the world working on this, Dwayne Williams. So let's jump into that now.
Okay, welcome to the section where I'm going to teach you how to make this double-ended envelope. I'm going to teach you 3 different ways, ranging from super easy and quick to more detailed, which look better. First of all, this is way one. I would only recommend doing it this way if you're at a pinch and you need to make some up quickly, and that is just getting 2 of these envelopes. So these are just like money envelopes. These aren't the same as the ones that you're going to get in the kit. The ones that come in the kit are not going to be glued, but if you do happen to have any of these lying around, or like I say, you're in a pinch and you need to get some done quickly, then all I would suggest is gluing these back to back like this, so that the folding flaps on the outside. Because if you did it on this way around, then it's going to flap onto the other envelope. So back to back like this, and you glue them together. Once you do, you'll have one that looks like this. So one will be glued down with a business card inside already, and then you've got this one where you can write your prediction down and pop it in there. Or you can already have it sealed both sides, depending on what trick you do. The only reason I say that only do this if you really need to is because you'll find like the edges will peel, and you can it kind of gives it away. You can see down the side here that it's 2 envelopes stuck together. It would be okay for stage, I would say, or like a parlour show, but also it's really thick as well. It's kind of like cardboard, and it's hard to get your finger in there because it's so thick and tough. So that's the first way. The second way I'm going to teach you is, I've made this myself because yours are going to be black, so I'm making them the same as what they would be like in the kit, although the ones that you get are slightly longer, and there's a reason for that. The reason it is slightly longer is so that when you have your business cards inside and it's closed up, it just gives you a little bit more room each side to tear without tearing into the business card. So with that out of the way, you're going to have ones that look like this, not glued, and the reason is it just makes one of the ways easier to make for you. So what you're going to need for this is a pair of scissors, a glue stick, and a craft knife. So once you've got all those 3 things, what we're going to do first is we're going to fold this up to look like a envelope. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. Now, you can open it back up, take another one, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut all 3 flaps off, not the flap that that folds to seal the envelope. Okay, so there's 2 sides and the bottom. So I'm just going to use the scissors for this and just cut those off. And like with any gimmick you make, the more neater you are, the more careful you are, the more care you take, the better it's going to look in the end. And that's the whole idea of making gimmicks, is making it look realistic, like there's nothing been tampered with. So now we have the main back to the envelope and the flap. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to cut this bottom part off here, off your main envelope. Just like that. So now we have an envelope with no bottom, the bottom piece of an envelope, and the main body and flap of another envelope. So it just takes 2 envelopes to make a gimmick. And you're going to want to keep this bottom piece as well, because that's going to be a little convincer. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this where the flaps flap over, so it's not going to be like this where they'd flap underneath, they'd flap over on top like this. And then all depending on where your sticky is on here to seal the envelope, that's going to face down, the sticky part is going to face down. And then this is going to be glued just along this edge here. Okay, so the bottom of this piece and closest to the flap. If you want to flap this up and then kind of like a wall and then butt it up against it, it'll help you know exactly where you need to go. So I'm just going to use a business card, flip this over so I can apply the glue, and then you're just going to run it along the edge, sort of about a centimetre, just like that. If you can see that, you can see where I've glued there. And then this is just going to go down here, just to there, and then I'm just going to line it up here. It's a good thing with glue sticks and that kind of glue, which you can always reposition it as you want until it dries. So perfect. Now what you'll notice is when this folds over now, this where you just glued is acting now like this back portion here. Okay, this back portion here. So when these go over, when you slip something in, it's just going to go into this section here. And obviously you can have another section here now. So what we need to do now is we need to, I'll use scissors just to show you. You need to glue this section here, so down here, so this fold can fold over and stick down like the normal envelope should. Then we're going to glue this part and this part to stick down here, which will be to seal this side of the envelope. I know it sounds a little tricky, but if you're following along, you'll kind of understand and see how it's coming together. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do this part here first. And again, I'm just going to use a business card just so I don't get spilled glue over and then have things sticking where it doesn't need to be. So we're just going to run again another centimetre down here. Just move that. Just go back up. Make sure the ends are done. There you go. You can see where I've glued here along there. And then I'm going to open it back up. I'm going to run the glue stick. I'm just going to lift this up for a second just so I don't get glue on it. And I'm going to run it along this bottom flap, side flap here. about 1 centimetre. So now we've got several things glued at the same time here. So we're going to hold this down, this flat part here. We're going to bring this one over and then stick that bottom section down. And then we're going to bring this over, stick it down the centre and add that bottom part again. So now this is glued shut and the bottom part is glued to the back there. So now you have this. Okay. Now, just as a little convincer, if you want to stick this part onto the bottom here, so it looks like a regular envelope, then that's absolutely fine. If you worry about the continuity and then just stick this on here. It'll hide any little blemishes as well, and like I say, it will look like the real deal. And the same if you want to add another one on the bottom here, then these sections that you've, oh sorry, we have got another one here. Then we can glue this on as well. And just for an added convincer, if you want to take a pencil and then draw a line just off centre from the edge of the top of this flap here straight up, as if it was like a folded section here, then you can do that as well. But all in all, we've got a flap here and a flap glued here. Turn it around, a flap here and a flap glued here. So it just looks like each side looks like a normal envelope, and it's just slightly thicker than a normal envelope as well. So now you'll notice that we've got, I'll use a different business card for this rather than a glued one. We can stick a business card in there, seal it up, turn it around, and you've got an empty section there. So where you can stick another business card, just like this. And then all you do is you tear down. So once this is stuck, you tear down the side, and this is where that, well, when I said before about your envelopes being slightly bigger, it'll just give you a little bit more room to rip. So you can rip this like this. Obviously that flap would be stuck down. You can open your envelope, show that it's empty, done. Okay, so if you want to make this with pre-made envelopes, so say they're already glued, like this, then there's a simple way to do this, and this is where the craft knife will come in. So what you want to do is take one envelope, and we're going to basically rip it open. So rip open the bottom part. This has just been glued, just for demonstration purposes. So you rip it open so it's like this, so it's nice and open. And it doesn't matter about keeping all this neat because we're just using the middle part. So we want to cut off the sides again. So that's one side, then the other. And then the bottom. There we go. We're just neaten this up because if it's not cut right, it's not going to fit. That's one. And it's just this section here. Perfect. So now we have this. Okay. Now what we want to do is we're going to take our knife and we're just going to stick it into this this folded flap here and then cut. stick it in and then continue cutting along that bottom. So you're basically just opening the bottom. That's that. So now we've got a hole straight through this envelope. Now we're going to slide this in with the flap facing down. So this flap is face up and folds over, and this flap will fold down and under. So we slide this all the way in, like this. And that should reach the top there. And then this flap, just pull it out a slight bit more, should fold over like this. Perfect. If you find it doesn't fit properly, you can always pull it out. Like this part is too thick here. What I did was I pushed it down and smoothed it out, and then you can see where it's folded and crinkled over, and that's where you know it needs to be cut. I'm just going to cut a slight bit more and just curve it off to the end so it sort of bows in slightly. And I'll just make sure, because it doesn't matter about the middle part. There we go, that fits absolutely perfect now. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this flap back, so this flap goes backwards the opposite way to where it's going to, and then we're just going to push this through a little bit more, and we're just going to glue that end. Use a business card again, and exactly the same, about 1 centimetre just along there, and then we're going to pull this back down to where this can flap under. So we're going to push this down here like this, and obviously I'm just showing you as we're making this, but obviously you would let these dry first. So now that's stuck down, all we need to do now is we need to stick this part here to this inside part here. Now if you want to take the glue stick and put a little bit of glue on your finger, in all honesty, it doesn't really matter. If you want to glue this first while it's in there, before you put it in there, then that's fine. I just normally stick a little bit on my finger and just run it across like that, and then just stick that down, and then just use another finger to wipe away any excess glue. Perfect. And there we have it, another envelope made from envelopes that are already made and glued. And then this would flap down as usual, and then this would flap down as usual. You already have this part glued now, so this bottom flap, but if you want to use another flap off what you cut off from the other envelope, then you can glue that down onto this side so it looks just like an envelope. And there you have 3 ways how to make your double-ended envelope. It's pretty simple once you get it down, and once you know what you're doing, you can knock these out so quick. So now we're going to head over to Pete, where he's going to go through all his ideas and routines for you to learn.
So this two-way out envelope is an incredible thing for a few reasons. I tend to use this when there's a 50-50 outcome. Now, if you're doing a gender reveal, this is amazing because you could put inside, you could take an envelope to one of these parties, give it to somebody, wait months. When you find out one of your friends is pregnant, or you find out one of your partner's friends is pregnant, whatever, you could take this, you could give it to them and say, please don't open it. You put some sticky tape on the label, you get them to sign it and date it, the date that you give them it. Then when they decide that they're going to have a gender reveal, you can come and you can do the gender reveal. And that sort of stuff goes viral online, right? And so all you have to do is open the envelope at whichever end you want, and it's going to be like male in one end, female in the other end. You could do stuff like that. I'm going to fire out a lot of quick succession ideas that you can do with this envelope, because another brilliant thing is you can use the techniques that you use in any sort of switching device. So you can use, for example, another good one. This is a brilliant one. Imagine that you've got an envelope at the beginning and you can show one side of the envelope empty. You ask somebody for a dollar bill or a £5 note, they drop it in there, they seal it. You say, we'll come back to that at the end of the show. What does it allow you to do? It allows you to open it at the other end where you've got your dollar bill or £5 note inside. And that means that you already know the serial number, which means you can leave it with somebody right at the beginning, and then right at the end when it gets opened and comes out, it allows you now to be able to recite the serial number as if you're psychically receiving the serial number. It allows you to do things like the Rain Man book test. Think about the book test that we talked about earlier where you're doing the double lift. Well, now cleanly you can show an envelope, you can show that it's empty, you can give it to somebody, hands off, completely hands off, get them to write down a page number, get them to write down a line number, how many words across, drop it in there, seal it, sign the outside of it, hand it to somebody else. And now later on in the show, you get it, it gets opened, and you just open it the opposite side, which has got your writing inside there. Anything that you can switch in the heat of the moment, this device is going to allow you to do that. Another one, imagine turning around and the big end of your show is a roller banner that rolls down with the King of Diamonds on it. You get everybody in the audience to take a deck of cards. They're all shuffling the cards. Everybody takes half the pack and throws them up in the air so the cards are raining down. The cards get swapped about. Everybody throws more cards in the air till everybody's left with just one card. Nobody looks at what card they've got. Somebody takes the envelope, walks up to anybody, drops a card inside the envelope and seals it. That's going to be for the end of the show. Everybody else, take your cards, throw them in the air. Now at the end of the show, it gets turned round and opened the opposite way and your King of Diamonds comes out and bang, your roller banner comes down with the King of Diamonds. You can do this in close-up with a playing card. You have somebody shuffle them and you say, right, I want you to just think of a playing card. Now use the thumper that we talked about earlier. Let's say that you've forgotten your Mirage deck, right? But what you have got is a deck of cards and you take the King of Diamonds out of that deck, drop it into your two-way out envelope, keep it in your pocket. Now when you come into the performance, you get somebody to think of a card, right, deal down, face down to any number. They can deal to any number now. Take that card, put it in the envelope, seal it. We'll get back to that in a minute. You could have gone for any one of these. And then you go, just before we begin, what's the card that you're thinking of? The King of Diamonds. Do you see the King of Diamonds in there anywhere? No, you're going to get your first reaction. Open the envelope, take it out. There's a time delay between it. Take it out. Bang, you've got the perfect ending to the any card at any number, right? These techniques can all be mixed and matched. And I know I'm getting a little bit excited about this two-way out envelope, but it's literally because I've used this for so long. Another brilliant application for this. Mark Lemon and I were working on a television show in America that had a full audience of people. Now, I've talked to Mark and Mark don't mind me sharing this. We were working on a show. We're not going to say what it is. The full audience were given envelopes underneath their chair. Think about how great this is. Everybody in the audience writes down the name of a celebrity. They put the celebrity inside the envelope. They seal the envelope. They screw the envelopes up and everybody throws their envelopes down towards the stage. Now you get the participant to walk up and select 5 of those envelopes off the floor. You open 4 of them one way. So you open it. Oh, look, it's Shakira. It's this. Get rid of them one at a time. It's Shakira. It's this person. It's this person. You've got that person. And now what we do is we open it. This is the name of the person inside. And now you open it your side. And all you've done is loaded the same celebrity into every single envelope in the loaded side. And when everybody's dropping in the names of their celebrities, they're the ones that are used as proof of concept that these are all random. Right? Mark Lemon and I have worked on shows like that where we've used paintball guns and they've gone round on rails. Right? So these 2-hour envelopes can allow you to do a lot of incredible things. They can allow you, if you wanted to do it the opposite way around, to have an envelope, to have everybody in the audience write down the name of a celebrity, mix them all up, shuffle them up so that there's a stack of cards created from the audience's memory. Now one card gets selected, dropped into there, and all of a sudden now you just open it the opposite side and you know what it is. Anytime you want to switch something in that's yours, you can. If you wanted to create a false participant, you could. And what that means is that information doesn't exist out there. So if it's the big end, the big bang to your show, you can have this be the big bang to your show. If you wanted, you can take 5 stacks of these envelopes and you mark them 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 in ways with a pencil dot or a little number in the top corner. No one's going to notice that in pencil just underneath the flap. If you put the numbers underneath the flap, that's perfect. And what you do is you distribute some into this area of the audience with a specific question in. It might be, will I graduate college? Number 2 might be, will I have children? Number 3 might be, am I going to move house? Number 4 might be, I'm thinking of moving to Spain. Can you guess that? Question mark. Number 5 might be left completely blank. So now what you do is you get everybody to seal questions inside the envelopes like a Q&A routine, right? Then they take these envelopes, they mix them up, they get dropped in a basket, and all you've got to do is pick out one. You say, right, I'm going to pick these out. I'm going to pick 5 at random. You just pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Look for your markings. And now you say, right, you take these, and you're going to open one of them. And just look which one they've opened based on the marking. Now, not only do you know the question, but you know you can give a definitive answer. You know you can nail Spain and turn it round. You can say, number 3, I'm not getting anything from this one. I think somebody would be a skeptic. In fact, it's either you or you. And you point to 2 people in the audience. You go, it's either you or it's you that's not wrote anything. Right, now when they open it, the card comes out blank, you get a hit. This person thinks it's this person that wrote nothing, this person thinks it's this person that wrote nothing, and now you have this incredible moment that's another hit that's based off the back of nothing. And now you've got a full Q&A routine using these 2-out envelopes, these 2-way switching envelopes, right? Now I know I sort of fired through them. Please play this section back because it's such an exciting prop. And when you realise what you can actually use this for, it'll blow your mind because you could play pass the parcel with this thing. You could switch stuff out. Do you know another thing that you can do? You can use it as a peek device. You can literally say to somebody, right, I want you to write something down. We'll get back to that later on. But just so nobody sees it, drop it in the envelope and sign the flap on the envelope. Now what you do is you open it the opposite way around later and you say, in fact, take it back out, destroy it so that we don't see it. And now you've still got their billet inside the envelope, which means that later at any time you want, you can open that up and you can peek it at your own discretion. Now you know exactly what's going to happen. Let's say that there's a football team playing. If I ask Dwayne this question, Dwayne, how many football teams play a game of football?
2.
Right. So what does that mean? Imagine for every single match that were played all the way through the World Cup, right? All the way through the World Cup, before every single game, now you can predict the winning team of every single game, right? Because there's only 2 outcomes. So it just means that you seal both in and you say, today's prediction is this. I'm going to hand it to somebody. Everybody watches the game in a pub. It gets open the right side up and you've predicted it again. Second time, third time, and finally the last game of all, you've predicted it. And if you really wanted to, you could add a Swami gimmick in and you could key in the score at the end. And that allows you to predict the World Cup using the 2-out envelope, or any basketball game, any snooker game, any tournament, as long as at the start of each game you put an envelope down and it can be left in full display or in somebody's hands the entire time. And now you can predict the outcome of any sporting event at any time, and you can just keep handing envelopes every time a new game starts and you predict it with succession every time. So that is the 2-way switching envelope. That's the explanations for them. Dwayne's done a brilliant job of constructing the gimmick. He's made an amazing set of them, and I'm really lucky. He sent me about 50 of them to use for myself, and I know that I'm going to get good use out of them. So that's the 2-way switching envelope, the 2-way out envelope. I really hope you enjoyed it.